Hey, how are you? My name is Ben, and I'm a movie buff. Before I get into the subject of this video, I wanted to briefly talk about the nominated films for the 2018 Oscars that were announced recently. While I still have yet to see some of the big contenders like Lady Bird, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and The Shape of Water, here are my brief thoughts so far. I hope that Roger Deakins wins for Best Cinematography for Blade Runner 2049. I really hope that War for the Planet of the Apes wins Best Visual Effects, given that Rise and Dawn were both nominated in that category but didn't win. So hopefully this is their year, the year they win, so we'll see. I think Mudbound is the first Netflix movie to be nominated for an Oscar, so that's really interesting. And it would be cool if Baby Driver wins an Oscar as well in one of the technical categories, but it might lose out to Dunkirk, so we'll see. So today I wanted to talk about my thoughts on the Oscars as an awards ceremony, so let's do this. If I can remember correctly, the very first time I sat through the whole Oscars ceremony was in 2004, when my favorite film, The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, dominated the competition and won 11 Oscars. It was so exciting to watch the evening unfold and wonder who was going to win what category. Ever since that night, I've been fascinated with the Oscars. I've learned as much as I can about them while making predictions each year of who I think will win, and then watching the event eager for the results. It seems like millions of other people are interested in watching the Oscars as well, whether it be for the winners, the stars, or even the fashions they wear. However, that doesn't mean that the Academy Awards are loved by everyone. Many criticize the event for being too narcissistic. I think Seth MacFarlane put it best in a commercial where he was advertising the Oscars, and he said, "We take celebrities who have everything, and then we give them a trophy." I understand this and numerous other complaints that people have had towards this awards show, but I think there are still some positive elements about the Academy Awards that are worth discussing. The first one that I'd like to talk about is the people. Back in 1971, The Fiddler on the Roof, a popular stage musical, got the silver screen treatment and, as a result, was nominated for 8 Oscars, including Best Scoring Adaptation. When the big night came, the film won for its music adaptation. And what was the name of the guy who adapted the music? It's the same guy who wrote music for this and this, and this and this, and this and this, and this and this, and this and this. It's John Williams. I think this is part of the reason why he's had such an incredible career and why many people know who he is. Think about it. So many people know his name from his achievements in film scores, but how many people knew who this guy was back in 1972? The Oscars gave us an opportunity to see the face of the man behind the music. While we tend to think of the big-name celebrities being nominated and winning the important awards, let's not forget all of the other people who at least get a nomination. We see celebrities in the movies, but for most of the nominees in a given year, these are people who work behind the camera, just as hard as the actors in front of them. The Academy Awards have 24 categories, ranging from technical aspects to documentaries, short films, etc. Most of these people don't have the same fame or fortune that the actors, directors, and producers usually have. They work in film and hope to make a difference with their art, so when they win, they get their 15 seconds of fame. Even getting nominated can help filmmakers be recognized. The Oscars have the power to highlight the important people who created these films. Think about the documentaries that could change the world for the better, or a short film that can inspire greatness. And this leads me to my second point. The films. So the Academy Awards has the power to show us award-worthy artists, and this can obviously be applied to the art they make. Every year, there are more and more films that are released. While some films have no problem finding an audience, there are plenty of them that do. These movies are made for a few $1,000,000, get a limited release, and may potentially be forgotten. Thanks to the Oscars, by nominating all the films they do, they are giving many films exposure. Now, I know sometimes they nominate films that have already been seen by millions, whether it be Avatar, Mad Max Fury Road, or Gravity, but then they also nominate smaller films like Moonlight, Room, and Whiplash. I didn't see these films until they had Oscar buzz. That's what made me interested in checking them out. For the last few years, my friend and I have been going to the theaters to watch the nominated movies before the big ceremony. He said to me once that he really enjoyed seeing these kinds of films because they were different from the films that he would normally watch. It's easy for people to stay in their comfort zone, especially with their preferred movies they like to see. But watching Oscar-nominated films that aren't exactly mainstream blockbusters can be a really interesting exercise. You never know which films might blow you away. The most obvious example I can think of is the comic book movie popularity that we've been seeing since, well, for quite some time. The chance of a comic book movie doing well is extremely high, while the chance of a smaller movie doing well isn't all that great, especially if it isn't attached to a franchise. Fans, artists, and critics alike have complained that these bigger blockbusters are taking the potential spotlight away from other films. While this sort of thing will probably never go away, what's nice is that the Oscars also have a big spotlight of their own that they can shine on smaller films. Moonlight made $65 million worldwide on a production budget of $4 million. Manchester by the Sea made $77 million worldwide on a budget of $9 million. I think part of their financial success is due to the Oscars. And now, my last point is the celebration. However you feel about the Oscars, you can't deny that it is ultimately a celebration of film. You may be thinking to yourself, it's primarily a celebration of Hollywood patting itself on the back, and while that's obviously true, think about the presentation of the ceremony. As I mentioned earlier, there are 24 Oscar categories, and while there is an emphasis on the bigger categories like acting, writing, directing, and Best Picture, there are still 16 other categories that are presented throughout the night. When I see all of these other films being nominated in various categories, I can't help but get excited. Every year, when the Oscar ceremony finishes, I think to myself, wow, now there are even more movies that I want to see. I also love how they celebrate older films and people that aren't even nominated that evening. Neil Patrick Harris sang a song about the magic of movies when he hosted the Oscars in 2015 and referenced so many films and classic actors that for some people watching the event, it might be the sort of thing that gets them interested in revisiting the classics or experiencing them for the first time. Or how about the In Memoriam segment that shows us all the artists we lost in the previous year? This could be another trigger to learn about these people by watching the films that they worked on. At the end of the day, I understand why people have problems with the Academy Awards. Of course, they aren't flawless, but there is some goodness in what they do, and it shouldn't be overlooked. I'm glad that they're still going strong. I have so much fun watching the nominated movies, and then watching the live event, and then talking about it with people afterwards. So, those are my thoughts on the Oscars. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in a few weeks with a special guest star where we discuss a movie topic that I think you'll love. Think about the documentaries that could change the world for the better, or a short film that could inspire greatness. This leads me to my second point. The film